Hey everyone, I'm Dean Obeidallah. Welcome to the Dean's Report Live. In today's segment, you are my guest. Done this once before. It's the second time, and I'm hoping to do it on a recurring basis. On my Sirius XM show, I do it just about every night. I have a monologue, and then people call in. Here, the reason I'm trying it is that with the new desktop Substack Live, I can read your comments now on the right on my desktop much more clearly than when it was on the phone. It was impossible to read. There was too much going on. So I'm going to do these periodically, maybe a few times a week. We'll see if people are interested. Well, maybe more times a week. Keep it to about 10-15 minutes of me talking, and then the rest 10-15 minutes of the comments people give. And as I noted at the outset, today's topic is where is the outrage over Donald Trump lying to use our military to murder people? And it's really that simple. It's murder. And this came up. I was on MS Now, which used to be MSNBC, last night. We had a discussion that tread into this area. And I said, I want to talk about it more, but they're the host, so I can't make them talk about it. So that's why I want to talk about it today with you as my guest. And here's the reality. We've had Donald Trump today. We learned that they bombed something in Venezuela, on the land of Venezuela. It's sketchy. We're not exactly sure. But Trump said, oh, there are boats loading up drugs. So he blew up the factory or the depot. I'm not unclear. No one's clear on what he did, but he said, we did bomb something on the soil of Venezuela today, which is, of course, an act of war. But even if they were loading drugs onto a ship, we have no right under international law to bomb them. They don't pose an imminent threat to the United States. We don't know what kind of drugs are there. We don't know where the drugs are going. We have no idea if they're coming here. But this is ongoing. Over 100 people have been killed by Trump's regime in international waters under the lie that these people pose a threat to the United States of America. Let me just point out one thing, because in case people from other countries will probably know this if you're viewing us here, the world, read like BBC's coverage, read The Guardian's coverage, read The Economist, read international media outlets' coverage of our killing people in the ocean of international waters. It is all dubbed without any dispute as illegal under international law, because it is. There's no defense for it. This isn't spin. This isn't politics. What makes it so frustrating to me is that there's not an outrage to this. We've all lived through the lies that got us into the Iraq War. And now we're living in a new drumbeat to a war in Venezuela, where, again, you didn't hear the news a short time ago, we now bombed something on the land, some drug depot. And you might say, well, isn't there some justification for this, for the military to act? Do you want to know what the justification is for our military to erase people on the open seas like it's a video game? Do you want to know the justification? A secret memo. I'm not kidding. A secret memo. A memo that we are not allowed to see, that the New York Times reported on a few weeks ago, that Pam Bondi selected some lawyers, surprise, to justify what Trump wants to do. And it's a secret memo, like we live in Russia. Like we, as the American people, don't get to know what our government's doing when they're killing people. So a secret memo justifies this on a legal basis. What's remarkable, as the New York Times pointed out when reporting on this a few weeks ago, in reaching that conclusion, the memo contradicts a broad range of critics who've rejected the idea that there is any armed conflict and have accused Trump of illegally ordering the military to commit murders. Murders. Increasingly under Trump, we are viewed, the United States of America, as a rogue nation. That's where we live. We live in a country where others, if it wasn't because of how our power economically and militarily, we would be getting sanctioned. Rightfully so. The regime would be sanctioned. But that's not going to happen with Trump. And also we get a Security Council veto at the UN. But it's not just the New York Times or critics. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, released a detailed statement 2 months ago that I covered on my show. I wrote about for Substack about a month ago, where in great detail, he notes, under international human rights law, the intentional use of lethal force is only permissible as a last resort against individuals who pose an imminent threat to life. Blowing up people in small fishing boats who are about 1,500 miles from Florida that do not pose an imminent threat to us. These are drug dealers. And even if they are drug dealers, and they're coming to the United States, our Coast Guard would intercept them because our military is watching them from when they leave the coast. So as they get closer to the nation, to our waters, then the U.S. Coast Guard can intercept them. Like, these are simple lies. Trump claims it's fentanyl. That's a lie. Fentanyl does not come from Venezuela. It comes from Mexico. The idea these drugs are coming from Venezuela to the United States, again, been debunked by news outlets who actually did a good job showing the ships were actually not capable of coming all the way to the United States of America. They were going to other bigger ships, which were generally going to Europe or other nations. So you've got this swath of killing people based on lies, as if it doesn't matter. And people are not, some of us might be upset, but where's the outrage to this? And then we add the other layer where Trump made it clear in the last 2 weeks, the war with Venezuela he wants is not about drugs. It's not about saving human lives. It's about oil. It's about oil. And we know that because he put it in writing. Again, this gets covered like this much by the media. They cover it when it happens, and they go back today to report on bombing some drug depot when it's all about destabilizing the Maduro regime. And Maduro is awful. But that's not the point. Because some leader's awful doesn't mean we get to do regime change. We all lived through regime change with Iraq. We know how this plays out. It doesn't play out well for us or the people who live there. So what happens? What did Trump write on social media 2 weeks ago? The blockade that he imposed around Venezuela, he said, will remain until Venezuela returns, quote, to the United States of America, all of the oil, land, and other assets that they had previously stole from us. Just to be clear, under international law, the resources of Venezuela, namely their oil, are not our assets. They remain the property of the country where the resources are. Yes, that country can make a deal with Chevron or Exxon or wherever they take out the oil and to sell it on the market and give a profit to the people. So it's never ours. Trump claims, and he said it now numerous times, the oil was ours. It's not ours, it's theirs. As to assets, the land, we don't own the land. Some private companies may have bought land, but again, the United States of America didn't buy land. We don't own land. And as to the companies, when there was a nationalization of some of the assets, there was a level of compensation, and some are still litigating it. But the point is, this is about oil, and Trump is saying it. And it feels like the lead up to the Iraq War. Instead of weapons of mass destruction, it's drugs killing Americans, and that's a lie. That's an undisputed, unchallenged lie. And where's the outrage? Why aren't more people upset? Why isn't the corporate media doing a better job? Why are Democratic leaders, and some are, calling for hearings and stuff, but it gets lost in the noise of what Donald Trump spins. The sound and fury of 1 hour of Donald Trump takes up a news cycle for the entire day. So you have that. Then we had in Nigeria, the missile strikes by the U.S. military on ISIS targets. Donald Trump, Christmas present. Now, when we find out the facts afterwards, it's lie after lie after lie. In the area where we did the missile strikes, ISIS was not operating. A state elected official made that very point. CNN did some great reporting. They went there and talked to people in the village. They said ISIS doesn't operate here. And Trump claimed he was doing it to protect the Christians who were being slaughtered by ISIS. The people in this village said, we are a Christian and Muslim village. We all live together fine. There's no problem, and there's no ISIS here. Trump's claim also that ISIS is targeting and slaughtering Christians. I am sure they're killing Christians. ISIS is horrific. But the number one victim of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, are Muslims, because that is the bulk of the population. It's not about religion. It's about power. They kill Muslims every single day, and Trump doesn't care about them. But again, these are lie after lie. So Nigeria, there was no ISIS in the area. Second, the community that they bombed in the area, and thankfully they didn't kill people in that community, were Christian and Muslim community who lived together in harmony, which Christians and Muslims around the world, and Christian Muslims and Jews around the world in most places live in harmony as well. But this is lie after lie. And there's no sense of outrage. There's no sense of outrage from the media, from the base. And again, I don't know why Republican members of the base aren't outraged by some of this. Some of them really are isolationists. They really forget what Trump's about. They really are America first, whatever you want to call it. They're true isolationists. But Republicans in Congress, they don't even show up for their jobs. It's like a no-show job in The Sopranos. These guys should lose their health benefits. During the shutdown, they went home for 43 days. They do not hold Trump accountable whatsoever. If the founders and the framers of the Constitution came back to life today, they would say, we made Congress Article 1 out of the 3 articles, and they made it Congress Article 1 because to them, that was the most important check and on this idea of a democratic republic, where it's a push and pull of power between the judiciary and Congress and the president. We have no Congress. We have no checks. There are some Democrats who want it, and a couple of Republicans like jackasses like Rand Paul. But again, where's the outrage? We have a government that is killing people, that is bombing people around the world. There seems to be no restrictions. It's whimsical. And Trump just lies to back it up. And have we learned nothing from the lies of George W. Bush? Have we learned nothing in getting into a war in Iraq? And will people in the Republican base actually care when their sons or daughters are sent off to fight? Maybe. I'm not sure. And what's interesting is that there were polls over the weekend, last week, that showed while Republicans support bombing Venezuela, it's a bare majority. It's not like there's a clamor for it. It's not like 80%, it's like 52, 54%. And overwhelmingly Americans, Democrats, Independents do not want any war with Venezuela. So this is something that seems to be fueled by, ironically enough, the oil companies. It's all based on lies. And you are my guest, because the question I ask for all of you, and I'm going to read your responses right now as much as I can to try to interact with people. And I wish you could call, like my radio show, we can actually have a conversation, but that's impossible. What's Substack for now? Maybe in the future we'll have it where you can actually, you can join in a box and I can click on people and everyone can talk, which would be a lot of fun. But the question is, to you, my guest, where's the outrage? Why is there no outrage when our government is murdering people in our name? This is not about, I don't care what's on Fox News. The world sees the United States of America as a rogue nation. And nothing better sums it up than Donald Trump today standing with Benjamin Netanyahu, a war criminal, at the White House, a man who can't even go to most countries because he would be arrested because he's charged with war crimes by the ICC, which Donald Trump should be charged with for these murders. And again, they might have that in common, where Donald Trump was charged one day. And just from a legal point of view, I'll add as a lawyer, because I did a lot of research into this, the International Criminal Court, as we know, has no jurisdiction over crimes on U.S. soil because the U.S. is not a signatory. But if there are crimes committed in the waters or on the soil of nations that are signatories, then there'd be charges against someone like Trump. Guess what? Venezuela is a member of the International Criminal Court. So if there are missile strikes on Venezuelan soil, which Trump says there is, we'll find out. He's exposed himself, Pete Hegseth, and the military members to potential war crimes. International waters, it's not clear. I wish there was a more clear answer. The waters of Venezuela, absolutely clear. So today, Donald Trump may have exposed himself to prosecution for war crimes, and I hope that happens. But again, where's the outrage? So the best I can do is read. I'll try to go back and read. And do people not care? If you don't care, it's fine. Tell me you don't care. I mean, I'm not trying to get you to care. But if you do care, why is it not, when our government is erasing people like it's a video game in our name, the whole world sees this. If we were watching another country do this, a country that was adversarial to us, we'd be talking about it all the time. It would be on the news all the time. Look at how rogue they are. There should be sanctions against this country. There should be sanctions against Donald Trump's regime. So let me go back and try to read some of the comments. I'll go back quickly here. And here's my friend Carrie. I'm still waiting for a email. It's been 9 days. Okay. She's waiting for mail. That's different. Okay. The Stephen J says the military is able to step in and Congress hasn't done a thing. That's true. Gwenny says Trump is a psychopath. All right. Joanne in Boston says it feels like people are consuming news as it's entertainment or reality show farce than real. I think there's a lot of truth to that. The idea that we watch the news like it's entertainment, and this releasing the footage of people being killed, even survivors being killed, which we didn't get that footage yet, it gives it a video game component to it. That is not real life. And the media has done a horrible job of not humanizing the people who've been killed. Now, there's been some reports of family members who were contacted in Venezuela, said my loved one was not a drug dealer or anything. But all right, so Michelle Brody says there's zero justification for murder. There is, again, international law. This is international law. An imminent threat to the United States or to citizens of the United States would, in that circumstance, allow us to use lethal force if we can't stop it any other way. A, a boat that is 1,500 miles from the United States of America is not a threat. There's no imminent threat. Blowing up parts of Venezuela today. I mean, we don't know what they blew up yet. They're saying it's a drug depot. They were loading things on ships, but now we've taken this to a new level. We are actually, can't say we're at war, but we are at a new level where Donald Trump, I think, has exposed himself to ICC charges. All right. Janice Bloom says, thanks for sharing this truth and engaging others in the conversation. If people want to respond to each other in the comments, it's a live chat, so I'm reading your chats because you are my guest, and that's the goal. Carrie, my friend Carrie, says, where are Democrats in Congress? Some of them are speaking out, but until Democrats have committee chairs, and we don't because we're in the minority, we can't call hearings. We can't subpoena witnesses without Republicans' consent. That's sucky. So we got a year till that happens, a year and a few days. Let's see. Others have joined here and are saying, Dawn, same name as my sister, says corporate media bends the knee again. And we had a discussion last night on corporate media on MS Now, and at least they're covering this. And I wonder if there's not an appetite among viewers so they don't care. But when your government in your name is killing innocent people, or any people, innocent or not, where is the clamor for the evidence? It's that simple. Give us evidence that what's on those ships are drugs. First of all, we don't know that. We have no proof presented to us. Second, that it was coming to the United States. Third, that it was an imminent threat, that it could not have been intercepted somewhere else. Same thing with Nigeria. Trump whimsically says we bomb things in Nigeria. We have no idea what's going on. And it's just going to escalate more and more. And the concern with all of this, of course, is that Donald Trump used the military in November to try to prevent the midterm election from happening. It's fighting every step of the way so that when he does something like that, we are ready. They know there's a pushback. The media is ready. Democrats understand they're going to have to fight hard. So let's see. Kitty Cat says the United States of amnesia. That's part of it. And when I talk about the Iraq War, it seems, as someone who lived through it, much more immediate. But in reality, it was 20 years ago. I mean, it began in 2003. There are many younger people who now follow politics who have no idea what that was about and what it was like, that lead up, that drumbeat, where we hear people talk about weapons of mass destruction and there was no evidence and we all demanded it. And, Colin Powell famously went to the UN and all that, lie after lie. And I would thought that we would have learned as a people, do not accept statements by your government. I don't care who's in power. Do not blindly accept statements by your government that try to justify war. And that's what Trump's doing right now. And will the GOP base go along with the Republicans in Congress go along, whatever Trump says? So let's see. The only Geezer Tom, that's his name. I'm not calling him a geezer. Says the only place we see outrage is non-mainstream media. And that's true. And that's partly here. And if anyone has any sense of why, and any idea, suggestions for what more we can do to elevate this story. And by the way, another story I want to elevate and not talk about today, but I wrote about it yesterday, and I hope you go to the Substack to check it out, about a musician who canceled on performing at the Kennedy Center because they renamed it, and the Trump regime is threatening to punish him with $1 million lawsuit to break him. He's just a respected musician, not a millionaire. And they're trying to, and again, that's another story that demands media coverage. And if it's not for Substack, we don't get the coverage. So let's see what more comments people said. Deb says we lose sleep worrying every day. We do. T. Ray says Trump controls the media, the courts, and Congress. And that's true. That's a different conversation. But we are not a democratic republic in sense of a checks and balance that we once had. I will say Supreme Court last week at least prevented Trump from allowing troops to go into the streets of Chicago. But just so everyone knows, again, that's a preliminary ruling. We're going to see how it plays out in the long run. Here's others saying, Tara Lex asked the question we all do, what the hell can we do? What we can do is amplify it. Whatever the issue is that you're concerned with, amplify it on social media, amplify it to elected officials, call your elected officials, call your members of Congress, demand they talk about this. Old school stuff, write letters to the editor, that kind of stuff. But today we have social media, so you can post immediately. So what else more? And again, you are my guest. That's why I'm reading. If you're joining late, why I'm reading from the chat. I want to hear from people. And the topic today is, where is the outrage? over Donald Trump lying and using our military based on lies to kill people in our name. Again, in our name as Americans. And it goes, the media almost ignores it. More than 100 people killed in fishing boats. How does that, if Russia was doing that, America, we would be going crazy. Republicans are like, what a rogue regime. Again, on the world stage, we are viewed as a rogue nation increasingly, and thanks to Donald Trump. Chris says, I call my representatives all Republicans but Fetterman. What else can I do? That's true. Stuart Cohen says he likely wants to rename Earth Trump. Again, very true. These are all true. So what can we do? No, stop trashing those who are doing it. Michael Rose says no one is perfect. Stop trashing those who are doing something, even though they're not doing everything you want or did something you don't like. Do you want MAGA to win by default? And I'm not sure that's in response to something I said or something else someone else said, but that's an interesting point. I've heard people say, don't criticize Democrats. In this scenario, we do have some Democrats who are speaking out. My criticism is more in the media, and to be honest, and I said this on MS Now last night, too many Americans are sheep. So if you think I'm criticizing Democrats here who are elected officials, you're missing it. I'm criticizing our population. I'm criticizing all who are not speaking out. I'm criticizing the sheep that live among us, and that Democrats could be maybe more effective in being leaders on this, but I can assure you Democrats would be screaming about it more if you and me were pressuring them to talk about it more. In America, we have too many sheep, too many people accept things. And the reason, though, Trump's doing the badly in the approval ratings at the lowest of his, even from the first term, is not because of killing people on boats. It's not because of lying every day, because the economy, because that affects people. Everyone pays attention to that. So, look, I get not everyone can follow every issue. Not everyone has the time. You've got family. You're busy. We all get that stuff. But Chris says, my family are not MAGA, but they look the other way. It's too stressful. That's different. Well, I found interesting in the poll in Venezuela, overwhelmingly America said no war. Republicans about 50%. Here was the big rub. A little over 20% of Americans said they had no idea what that issue was about. Because they were asked, are you following it very closely, somewhat, or not at all? Over 21% of Americans said in a Quinnipiac poll last week, they are not following Trump killing people at all. Zero. That's where we come in. And again, look, high prices is the key, and affordability is the key to winning the midterm elections. We all get that. But this is a very serious issue. We are killing people. All right, let's go read some more. Others say we typically have to go to war when the president is unpopular, Karen Black says. And I don't think look, Trump's approval is at 35, 36% right now. I've seen polls where Trump is less popular than herpes, okay? There are STDs more popular than Donald Trump at this point. And even Republicans, he's down to 85% approval from like mid-90s. So going to war now, I don't know if that rallies people the way it once did. You can distract from the Epstein files, yes, but does anyone actually think if Trump actually engaged in a full-out war against Venezuela and tomorrow declared a war against Venezuela to save lives from drugs, that his approval ratings go up? In the old days, that could work. I don't see that working today. I don't see that working with a president with a 35, 36% approval rating. Among his base, maybe it brings some of them back. But it's an interesting point. Let's see what more we have here. Let's see. Oh, Eric points out Lin-Manuel Miranda canceled all the shows of Hamilton at the Kennedy Center. That's a different topic. But yeah, I like it. So Karen says strikes and boycotts. We are no longer a democracy. Some people are commenting a lot, which is great. I'm trying to read as many as I can. Jan Dandel says, I don't know how anyone could trust corporate media after all this. And that's very true. And there are some really good journalists in the world of corporate media, really good ones, who I like personally. They have to navigate a world where they don't dictate the agenda. They don't get to lean into topics if the executives don't want them to. They can cover them in passing. That's the world of corporate media. And corporate media as a whole is bent the knee to Donald Trump because of the threat he poses to them. So that's absolutely very, very true. Let's see. Kelly says, I can't read it too fast. Karen says, Fetterman's basically Republican at this point. I agree. Very much true. All right, we'll do this for a couple more minutes because we want to keep it like 25 to 30 minutes because I don't want to lose the energy. But but at the same time, Sharon Storm says, call your representatives in D.C., 202-224-3121. That's important for everything. And I will tell you this as speaking to Ezra Levin from Indivisible over the years, who used to be a staffer. Members of Congress, if you live in their district and you do call, they keep a running total, and the member of Congress gets the total at the end of the week. If nobody is calling about an issue, whatever the issue, unless they really care personally, they're not going to engage in it. If a lot of people call up and say, why is it Trump is using our military based on lies, whimsically, erasing people like it's a video game, and they get a lot of calls, then maybe they raise the issue more when they go in the media, when they talk about it. They write op-eds. It gets covered by the media. It's a two-way street with corporate media. If Democrats don't talk about an issue, they might cover it, they might not. But if Democrats in one voice in Congress talk about an issue, they will feel obligated to talk about it. It's playing the refs. And we see Republicans play the refs all the time. Right now, you might be seeing all the stuff about the Minnesota, the fraud. And there was a fraud. People have gone to jail, and they were prosecuted under the Biden administration. But for some reason now, because Trump talks about Somalis in Minnesota, the right has now generated this story and brought it to fruition where now mainstream media has to cover it. That's playing the refs. This is an old story. Numerous people have been prosecuted, and I had the Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, on my show, and we talked about it. He's on my show Monday when we come back from the break, and he made it very clear, and right-wing media won't cover this. The ringleader of this scandal in Minnesota was a white woman. Yes, her first name's Amy. Yes, that's true. And you can go to my YouTube channel for the show, and you'll see that interview. I posted it. That's the truth. You don't see it. Now, there were Somali Americans involved, but the ringleader, and she was convicted and sentenced as the ringleader, was a white woman who then got these people of color to join in the scheme to steal billions of dollars. They don't even talk about that. But again, so my point, not to go on a different story, my point is that by pressuring elected officials, by pressuring the media, they begin to cover it. They have no choice. It builds up where everyone on social media is talking about it. And they go, we have to cover this story. All right, one or two more minutes, and then I enjoy doing this, but it kind of burns out after a while here. Let's see. And I'm glad people are joining and doing this, and I'm going to try to do it, a few times a week, maybe do it again Friday, right before I come back to my regular show on Sirius XM. I'm off the rest of the week. Cindy Thomas says, Jim Jordan has an office in my city and he does nothing. And Cindy, to you, I will say, where is Jim Jordan? Where is James Comer? When Biden was president, all he did was talk. Outrage, scandal. We need to do oversight. Trump gets in there, they're gone. That's why it's a no-show job. They should not be getting their full pay. So, all right, last comment or two here. Let me scroll down to the end here. Michael Rose says, thanks for hosting this. I thank you for joining. Robin says, Democrats are terrible at talking about things in the public. Some are, some are not. I will say, and I'll leave you with this, because I want Democrats to be better. Not all are suited for this time of fighting. We can all, everyone here, if I said, who are the Democratic fighters in Congress? We can all pick the same 20, 25 names. You go through the list, Jasmine Crockett, AOC, Jamie Raskin, Senator Van Hollen, a whole bunch. We're going to go through it. You can expand it. You can say 35. You can say there are 35 Democrats in the House and Senate. Maxwell Frost, like young people too. Jared Moskowitz, like a whole collection of people. But we'll get to the same, say 35 names. Here's the problem. How many Democrats are in the House and Senate? More than 250. That's right. Over 250 Democrats are in the House and the Senate. Why is it that it's the same 35 or 30 or 25 that we see fighting the good fight on social media every day, going to the media, writing op-eds, having rallies? That's the problem. They're not all fighters. And you've got a chance this midterm to make your Democrat in your district more of a fighter or primary them with someone who's a Democrat. And this is not progressive versus moderate stuff. This is fighters versus folders. People are going to take the fight to it. So an issue like this that we talk about, if that concerns you, if that's a big issue, push for your Democratic member of Congress to talk about this issue or any issue. And if they're not responsive, take a page from the Republican playbook and primary them. There's nothing wrong with that. But then whoever the nominee is, we have to unite to win that seat. So this is not like sabotage. That's why we have primary, to pick the best candidate that represents our values. Our party evolves. Our party's evolving. The Republican Party is moving in further and further into just an open white supremacist. Not even J.D. Vance won't even denounce Nick Fuentes, a guy who says, quote, Hitler is cool and has denied the Holocaust. Like, that's where they are. We're about a party that wants to help people. So, all right, I want to thank everyone. We can keep it to 30 minutes. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This was a lot of fun on a slow holiday week. A lot of great comments. I'll send this out to everyone on Substack who subscribes. And that if you don't subscribe to my Substack, I hope you will. It's completely free, of course. But I hope people will check out some of the comments. I'll try to pull some of the comments in a short article to send it out there. But thank you for joining. You are my guest. That's what the segment was. You are my guest. And we're going to keep doing this periodic. As long as people join it, I'll keep doing it. But thank you. I just want to wish everyone a happy new year, a healthy new year, and a successful and powerful new year where we win in November. That's the number one priority. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a great day. I really appreciate you being here.